Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the introduction, page number 9. This material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti. But this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord, and similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord, although they are not separated but eternally related. So the Lord, the living entity, the material nature and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial. But we can change the results of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. The jivas, or the living entities being parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and the material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord, but one of the two, the jiva, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. That is the difference. Therefore, Jiva Prakriti is called superior because Jiva has consciousness which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord is supreme consciousness. However, one should not claim that the Jiva, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection. But the theory that he can do so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. Srila Prabhupada is describing the Prakriti. The Prakriti is the separated energy of the Lord, and the material Prakriti. The Prakriti has two aspects. One is the inferior Prakriti and one is the superior Prakriti. The jivas, the living individual souls, belong to the superior Prakriti. And the material nature, the inanimate, the rocks and stones and the material nature belong to the inferior energy, and the jivas belong to the superior energy. So one difference between the two types of Prakriti is that one is inferior, one is superior. Why the Jiva is superior and Prakriti? Because the Jiva is conscious. The fact that consciousness is there makes the Jiva superior Prakriti. So as I said before, there are 5 things in Gita, 5 major theme of Gita. One is the Ishvara, the Lord. One is the second is the living entity or the Jiva. Third is the Prakriti or the material nature. Fourth is the time, Kala, and fifth is the karma, action. So here Ishvara, we understand, is the supreme controller, and the supreme controller controls everything, and the supreme controller controls the Prakriti also, so which includes two things. One is the living, individual living entities, and the second is the material nature. Both are controlled by the Lord as well as time also. So, time, the Prakriti, the Jiva, and the Lord, the Supreme Lord Ishvara, they are all eternal. What is not eternal is our karma. We every moment we are doing karma, and we get the reaction of that karma. Then that can be either a pleasant reaction or an unpleasant reaction. And other thing here mentioned here is the nature of the material world, the prakriti, the inferior prakriti, or the material world is impermanent. It is real, but it's impermanent. An example is given of the clouds in the sky. The clouds are real, but they are impermanent. Today you look at the sky, the clouds are there, and next month the clouds are not there. So that is the impermanent nature of Prakriti. Prakriti is eternal, but it's flickering. It's not stationary. It's on the move always. And in the next paragraph, the position of the Ishvara and the living entities are mentioned. As I said, the Prakriti that is not conscious is the inferior Prakriti, the material nature, and the Prakriti that is conscious is Jiva Prakriti or superior, and that's a difference. And the individual living entity is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, so it is conscious, but it is not supremely conscious. That's a difference between Lord and us. Lord is supremely conscious of every minute atom in the universe, but we are just conscious of ourselves, and even that we don't know fully ourselves. Right? We think we know ourselves, but we don't fully know ourselves. So we are minutely conscious, and that's a difference. And now we move on to the verses. Chapter 1, observing the armies, and we are on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The conch shells are blowing. Madhava and Arjuna have arrived, and they're blowing the respective Divya Shankha, the transcendental conch shell. And then we find several others have joined, and they're blowing the conch shells. So verse number 16 to 18, 16, 17 and 18. अनन्तविजयं राजा कुन्तिपुत्रो युधिष्ठिरः नकुलः सहदेवश्च सुघोषो मणिपुष्पकौ काश्यश्च परमेश्वासः शिखण्डी च महारथः धृष्टद्युम्नो विराटश्च सात्यकीश्च पराजिता द्रौपदेयाश्च सर्वश पृथ्वीपते सौभद्रश्च महाबाहु शङ्खान् दद्मौ पृथक् पृथक्. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew the Saghosha and Manipushpaka. The great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Shikhandi, Drishtadyumna, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sanjay informed King Dhritarashtra very tactfully that his unwise policy of deceiving the sons of Pandu and endeavoring to enthrone his own sons on the seat of the kingdom was not very laudable. The signs already clearly indicated that the whole Kuru dynasty would be killed in the great battle, beginning with the grandchild Bhishma down to the grandsons like Abhimanyu and others, including kings from many states of the world. All were present there, and all were doomed. The whole catastrophe was due to King Dhritarashtra because he encouraged the policy followed by his sons. Sanjay's task is to describe whatever is happening on the battlefield and relate to King Dhritarashtra's blind. So Sanjay is very diplomatic and tactful. Sanjay is telling through hints that the Dhritarashtra side is going to be doomed. And what are those signs? The words used in describing is the signs. The conch shell is called as Divya, transcendental conch shell, and that's the one sign that the other side, the Pandava side, is going to be victorious. Um, and then the next verse we come to know more. सघोषोधार्तराष्ट्राणां हृदयानि व्यधारयत् नभदश्च पृथिवीं चैव तुमुलोऽभ्यनुनादयन्. This was text number 19. The blowing of these different conches became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Purport. When Bhishma and others on the side of Duryodhana blew their respective conch shells, there was no heartbreaking on the part of the Pandavas. Such occurrences are not mentioned, but in this particular verse, it is mentioned that the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered by the sounds vibrated by the Pandavas' party. This is due to the Pandavas and their confidence in Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of the greatest calamity. So the second one hint that the Pandava side is going to be victorious is the mention of the word transcendental, Divya Shankha. Their conchal were transcendental. And what was the effect of that transcendental conchal blowing? The hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra were shattered. You see, when you are on the path of the wrong, when you are on the path of adharma, when you hear the transcendental sound of the Lord, you feel fearful. And that's what happened with Duryodhana. So here Prabhupada says that when Bhishma Deva and his side blew the conch shells, there was no reaction on the side of Pandavas. They were very cool about it. They were very secure. Why? Because Lord Krishna was on their side. When you are aligned with the Lord, when you're connected with the Lord, you don't have any fear. You're fearless. But Duryodhana being on the side of the wrong, the Adharma, hearing Lord's transcendental conch shell, all the sons of the Dhritarashtra were frightened. So this was verse number 19. And I think we can do verse number 20 as well. अथ व्यवस्थितान् दृष्ट्वा धार्तराष्ट्रान् कपिध्वजा प्रवर्ते शस्त्रसम्पाते धनुरुद्यम्य पाण्डवा ऋषिकेशं तदा वाक्यम् इदम् आह महीपते. At that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra, drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. Purport. The battle was just about to begin. It was understood from the above statement that the sons of Dhritarashtra were more or less disheartened by the unexpected arrangement of the military force by the Pandavas, who were guided by the direct instructions of Lord Krishna on the battlefield. The emblem of Hanuman on the flag of Arjuna is another sign of victory. Because Hanuman cooperated with Lord Rama in the battle between Rama and Ravana, and Lord Rama emerged victorious. Now both Rama and Hanuman were present in the chariot of Arjuna to help him. Lord Krishna is Rama himself, and wherever Lord Rama is, his eternal servitor Hanuman and his eternal consort Sita, the goddess of fortune, are present. Therefore, Arjuna has no cause to fear any enemies whatsoever. Above all, the Lord of the senses, Lord Krishna, was personally present to give him direction. Thus, all good counsel was available to Arjuna in the matter of executing the battle in such auspicious conditions, arranged by the Lord for his eternal devotee, lay the signs of assured victory. So here, Arjuna is about to prepare to start shooting the arrows. He takes up his bow and he looks in front of him and looks at the huge array on the opposite side, takes up his bow and is about to string the bow and shoot his first arrow. So Arjuna's chariot is described here. It has got the flag of Hanuman, and that is a great sign that this side is going to be victorious, because in the battle between Rama and Ravana, Hanumanji was a major source of strength on the side of Sri Ram. Hanuman ji is the eternal servitor of Lord Rama. So wherever Lord Rama or his incarnations are there, as here Lord Krishna is there, Hanumanji would be there. And here Hanumanji has his presence as Arjuna's chariot. The flag on Arjuna's chariot is bearing the image of Hanumanji. So that is another sign that this side is going to be victorious. So here Lord Ram is there in the form of Lord Krishna. Hanumanji is there, and Lord, the goddess of fortune, who is always with the Lord, is also present. So Arjuna is secure from all sides, and his victory is assured. And these we see that by so many different. So we finished text verse number 20, and hope that you have benefited from it in some way. Bhagavad Gita as it is. Please give a thumbs up if you like this video. Please feel free to share the transcendental knowledge, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for notification. Thank you very much for being there and watching this video. See you next time. Till then, Hare Krishna.